Number 10. Cash Money Murder. In 2021, a young stripper from the UK had an amazing night at work, earning over £8,000 in one shift. Mihaela Sasserman was showered with riches by an extremely wealthy customer. Another dancer at the same club, Gemma Lyons, tried to get some cash out of the client too, but was turned away. This sparked jealousy and rage. Later that night around 3 a.m., Gemma and her boyfriend, Nicholas Proctor, decided to rob Mihaela. After work, Proctor waited outside of the club in a van. He then followed the victim as she left, and when she stopped to have a cigarette, he attacked her, hitting her in the head while he tried to grab the money. Mihaela was left bruised with a nasty cut on the side of her head. When authorities arrested the couple, Gemma sobbed, either remorseful for a crime or sad that she got caught. Proctor was given 5 years in jail for the assault and robbery, while his girlfriend was only given 2. Number 9. Wrong address. In December 2020, a 26-year-old man was almost shot to death after he showed up to the address he thought he was sent ready to work. Steve Macon made a living as an exotic dancer. He was hired by a group of 12 women to come to a bachelorette party and give them a show. Sadly for Steve, he read the address wrong. Instead of going to Altrace Court like he was supposed to, the man showed up at Altrace Lane. After knocking on the door, a young woman greeted him, and at the time, Macon was dressed in the full stripper policeman getup. His costume must have been pretty convincing too, because just a few seconds after the door was opened, several men rushed to the door with guns and started firing. These suspects were apparently gang members who panicked after seeing a cop show up to their door. Wilma Johnson, a nearby neighbor, witnessed the whole thing. Despite seeing the crime unfold before her, Wilma didn't call the authorities because she believed Macon was an actual cop too. She figured he had things under control as he desperately ran away from the bullets flying towards him. After running for nearly 2 miles or just about 3 kilometers, Steve finally thought he was far enough away and called for help. Paramedics found him unconscious in a parking lot with 5 gunshot wounds. Luckily, Macon will survive, but he'll likely be traumatized for the rest of his life. Number 8. Love Triangle. In April 2018, the body of 29-year-old Bo White was found in his West Virginia home, but not all of Bo was there. His head was discovered near the property in a secluded forested area. During his life, Bo and his father James knew a woman named Rowena Cheryl Mills. James and Mills had been involved sexually for many years. Mills earned money as a stripper working at a local club. But here's the kicker. It's believed that Bo and Mills also had a similar relationship. The young man was mainly a shut-in who liked staying at home and keeping to himself. He didn't have a job and got money from disability pensions. Investigators think that Mills may have been offering Bo sexual favors in exchange for his prescription medication. The 43-year-old woman was a known drug addict. This fact was even used as an argument by her own lawyer. She's the primary suspect in Bo's murder case because the last night of his life, Mills texted Bo and asked if he wanted to meet up. This was on March 31st, the day before his body was discovered. Authorities claim that she beat the man to death, then used a knife to separate his head. A court witness even testified under oath that Mills asked to borrow a chainsaw, but refused her. After the killing, she dug through Bo's pockets, took his money and medicine, then texted the same friend simply saying, "Let's party." Her vehicle was even in the victim's driveway after the murder. Despite all the evidence, Mills' defense claimed that Bo's father was the one who killed him. They made the argument that James grew jealous over the growing connection between his son and Rowena and couldn't take it. Thankfully, the judge and jury didn't buy it. Rowena Mills was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Number 7. DREAMBOYS Nightmare. Whether you love them or hate them, strip clubs have remained a staple activity for countless bachelor and birthday celebrations. But one 21st birthday party involving male strippers didn't go over very well in 2017. 8 women celebrating their friend's big day decided to visit the Tiger Club in Manchester. One of the most popular shows the establishment has to offer is DREAMBOYS, which the girls were looking forward to seeing. It features several male strippers. One of them was Tyson Cross. After his performance, the women claim that Tyson came up to talk to them while they were at the bar. They say he was flirting, but it quickly turned aggressive. Once the girls told him repeatedly that they were all spoken for and in happy relationships, his anger only grew. Multiple people tried to calm Tyson down, but he just pushed one of the women out of the way. Others stepped in to try and help their friend, but they were targeted as well. Police were eventually called, and Cross was immediately fired from his job. Some of the young women reported facial injuries, with one even having cut on her eye after the fight. What was supposed to be a fun night out with friends quickly turned into one of the worst birthdays ever. And now for number 6. But first, we want to give a shout out to FaZe Beast and Cindy Livesy. Thanks so much for watching and supporting the channel. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and join the Bad Badger family. Number 6. Obsession. Abigail Saldana worked as a stripper at Rick's Cabaret in Fort Worth, Texas. One of the young women's regular clients was 54-year-old Stanley Saliga. On October 26, 2021, witnesses described seeing a vehicle full of bullet holes drive off of a highway exit ramp and onto a patch of grass near the airport. Once authorities got to the scene, they determined that the driver of the car, Abigail, was dead. Suspiciously, just hours before her death, Stanley made a post on Instagram. He claimed that he would report the young woman for prostitution after paying her $3,000. Stanley labeled himself as a victim, saying Abigail lied to him and told him they had a future together. The two had supposedly been seeing each other since July 2021, and while Abigail believed it was just a transactional work relationship, Stanley obviously thought it was more. But the story gets more interesting. Another social media post made by Abigail revealed that she had found a tracking device in her car and believed it belonged to Stanley. She also claimed that he had been constantly harassing her. A traffic camera nearby Abigail's house captured a red truck belonging to Stanley following her vehicle and passing by her home multiple times. After the killing, a SWAT team was sent to the suspect's home where they found him with multiple self-inflicted wounds. Stanley is now being held in prison awaiting trial on $250,000 bond. Number 5. Killing the boss. Police originally thought the death of James Mulrennan was self-inflicted, but after more digging, they realized what actually happened. In December 2016, James fell 5 stories out of his apartment balcony and died later on in the hospital. It seemed fairly simple. He jumped and maybe even fell until investigators saw his home. Almost every corner was covered by splotches of blood. Duct tape and zip ties were also found at the scene. For work, James was the manager of the Dollhouse, a strip club in Orlando, Florida. One of his employees was 24-year-old Mandy Mae Jackson. Mandy Mae and her boyfriend Scott Michael Love were spotted on his apartment's security cameras. The footage also shows the couple running to a vehicle 1 minute after a 911 call reported the fall from the balcony. Apparently, the suspect shot at the victim, hitting him in the leg before he jumped off the balcony. They also robbed him and used his credit card at Walmart just 2 hours later. For her crimes, the former exotic dancer Mandy Mae Jackson is now serving life in prison. Number 4. Good Samaritan. On August 1st, 2017, Ralph Cross was murdered. After stopping on the side of the road to help 4 women, he was shot in the back. The women included Brittany Curry, Ponesha Taylor, Letitia Dotson, and Jonisha Simmons. All of them worked as exotic dancers in Tennessee to earn money. Cross was just trying to do the right thing and help the women out. They apparently had a flat tire and he went out of his way for them, buying a new tire for the girls and even some food. After this, he brought them all to his home so they could stay the night. A witness reported seeing Ralph early the next morning arguing with some of the girls. All of a sudden, a loud noise went off and 3 of the women ran out of Ralph's home towards the 4th girl who was sitting in a car in the front of the property. Police were called to the scene and they discovered Cross's dead body with a bullet wound in his back. Inside Cross's home, couch cushions were turned over and inside some of his pants pockets were turned out. A thorough investigation yielded some fingerprints that traced back to Letitia Dotson. Eventually, photos of all 4 women were circulating news programs as cops tried to apprehend them. The girls' families were able to convince them all to turn themselves in, and according to the last information released on the case, the women are all in custody awaiting sentences for the murder of Ralph Cross, a tragic Good Samaritan. Number 3. Club Skin. Have you ever had a rival? Someone who has just always gotten under your skin no matter what they do? Well, Renita Linnell Lowell from Portland sure has. She knew Shanita Turner since they were kids, but something on June 15, 2016 pushed Lowe past her breaking point. Witnesses say that the 2 women were arguing one night when things suddenly got physical. It's unclear what exactly they were so angry over, but it is clear that Lowe punched Turner in the face. Even with a bouncer doing his best to get them away from each other, Lowe managed to stab her childhood rival 3 times with a knife she had kept hidden in her purse. 23-year-old Renita worked as an exotic dancer at Tommy 2's strip club. She apparently came to the murder scene, Club Skin, after her shift was over. While being interviewed by authorities, Lowe claimed that 29-year-old Turner was the one who started the fight. And on security footage, it does show that the victim did actually choke Lowe at one point, but the outcome of the fight remains the same. Renita's lawyer made the argument that Turner had a violent past, but eventually their client admitted to the crime. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison for the murder of Shantina Turner. Number 2. Hustlers. In 2019, the hit movie Hustlers came out starring award-winning actors like Jennifer Lopez, Constance Wu, and more. The film centered on the true life story of Rosalind Keough and several other exotic dancers she worked with while they scammed hundreds of thousands of dollars out of unsuspecting men. After their targets visited the clubs the women worked at, Rosalind and her group would give them a simple cocktail, infused with drugs like ketamine and MDMA. The drink would keep the men extremely happy, dazed, confused, and most importantly, it would make it difficult for them to remember what happened. Once they were drugged up, the girls would run up massive expenses and bills using the men's credit cards. For quite a while, the scheme worked, and it paid off big time, until of course it didn't, and they were caught. Usually the women picked out their targets very carefully, only focusing on wealthy people who had a lot to lose if news of them being at a strip club were to get out. They banked on the fact that these men likely wouldn't go public, saying that they were scammed while out on town doing things they probably shouldn't have been doing. One victim named Dr. Zayed Kevarkas Yunin didn't fall for it though. After one of the girls scammed him out of $135,000, he told his story, and soon enough other men came forward along with criminal charges against the suspects. Rosalind got off relatively easy. By pleading guilty to her crimes, she avoided any prison time. Keogh later went on to write a book about her story. Number 1. Dallas Cabaret. Earlier this year in June, a 32-year-old mother of 3 named Shalonda Anderson was shot to death outside of a popular strip club, XTC Cabaret Dallas. The business later released surveillance footage of the incident. Anderson allegedly drove her car into a group of security guards and pinned a 26-year-old female security guard between her car and another vehicle. Police and the club said the security guard shot Anderson and a second guard also fired, but missed. The same night, her and some of her friends were asked to leave the businesses after an argument broke out. Anderson was upset over the change she was given after closing out her tab. Some friends that night claimed the security guards were pushing them out the door. XTC Cabaret released a statement to the public offering condolences to those involved in the incident. They even offered to pay for the mother's funeral. But friends and family members of Anderson believe there's more to the story. One of the guards who fired shots at Shalonda have been arrested, but information on the case continues to be released as investigations continue. Thanks for watching. Have you ever been to a strip club? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to see more awesome videos from Bad Badger. We'll see you next time.